Hello. Today I have a doozy. I want to talk about God, the logical, versus God, the infinite, unknowable, all-knowing being. God, the logical, is more like Catholic, and God, the all-knowing, infinitely existing, all he exists everywhere. Um, Theory here, or modern Christianity. What I want to talk about is the two different beliefs of God. One is modern Christian and one is root Christian, the root Bible, and like Orthodox and traditional. Traditional and Orthodox and root Bible all preach that God is a logic. He has a beginning. It even says in the Bible, in the beginning. He learns, and it says that he learns in the Bible, and then he saw, and then it appeared to him that the light was good. So in the Bible it does teach that he's logistical, but also the thing is, I just want to talk about the ability to know a non-logical being removes your ability to be an apostle. Now, what we're trying to say here is, like, in a world of logic, apostles are beings that can select higher logics than you. So they can basically select God, and you technically can't until you can, right? And not only that they can select God, because somebody with lots of knowledge about God could select God and not be an apostle for him, right? They've also chosen the path to preach and teach for God, right? Preach enlightenment, preach holy, preach that kind of stuff. But anyway, what I want to talk about is how it is impossible to be a apostle for God the infinite versus God the finite. Now, I'm trying to not take away from his infiniteness. I'm not trying to take away our infiniteness either, because our particles do move from A and B through time, right? And that technically is infinite ingredients right there. So we are still infinite. What I mean by this is that we are created in his image more than you think. That he is so much more like us than you would think. Wouldn't you, if you had infinite power and infinite time, and no one's there cursing you and nobody's there competing against you and nothing exists, don't you think that you would try and build a company similar to yourself as well? Now, some people would think, oh, that's blasphemy, that's heretic, that's the other thing, whatever. I personally think that people have beliefs similar to God is not able to be communicated to. And when you come to that, when you come to God is not being able to be communicated to, that is kind of surrendering to lower logic. Now, what I want to talk about is developing higher logic and higher order and higher mass and energy. People that sin, they basically damn others with their energies. They spread their energies out at others on purpose, long range especially. And this is especially true when people are doing long range terrorism and warcraft and sincraft. That it burns up in the atmosphere. Their order burns up in the atmosphere and it doesn't reach their target. So they shoot harder. And then eventually, one day, it gets there. And now they're like, oh, okay, I am able to attack this person in long range now and change their existence in a type of way. This is exactly how the real world works no matter what. There's no transcending that. Quantum entanglement is extremely sub-mass. Now, there's no way to beat this. You have to communicate from A to B, and you have to communicate from A to B through infinite chaos. If you would just stick to your own guns and stay near yourself. Now, some people are going to be like, oh, but we're still moving on Earth, so we're going to lose that energy that otherwise, right? So I might as well sin with it to get what I want. Well, no. What I'm trying to suggest is to keep your commands, your energy, and your will-based commands in proximity of yourself to avoid, doing witchcraft and terrorism and things like that. When you do, you're going to build proof with the Lord and with, and I don't really like saying that because it's many, many, many parted, in my opinion, as well. You're going to build proof in the universe, which is more than anything. That's more valuable than anything. Nothing is more valuable than building proof in the universe. Because even if the most advanced being ever finds you guilty of what you're not guilty of, eventually the proof in the universe will set you free. Just continually telling the truth, especially when you're not guilty, eventually you will get set free. Now, what I want to talk about is, what if you were guilty? What if you start telling the truth and you are guilty? Well, what's the worst that's going to happen is that you're going to face court punishments. And court punishments have to do with, forces on you. Basically, it's healing nature. So telling the truth about being bad and doing the wrong thing can be a blessing. So, what do we do in Christianity when you have sinned? One of the things that you're supposed to do is you're supposed to atone. You're supposed to repent. But first of all, you are supposed to go to confession. Because you might not have a direct line to God. And God does not make sin within His verse. So when you sin, you can leave His verse. And that might not make sense to people, but God isn't always watching you in my beliefs. He might be. He might be always watching you because He loves you. But for some people, it's not like that. For some people, you were born outside of God, and you're halfway in, halfway out kind of thing. So when you sin, you just become farther away from God because He didn't predict you to sin. He watched you not sin. Now that puts a false narrative on God for some people. God only sees the truth. Actually, that's the whole point on confession. It's not this weird thing. It's a scientific thing. For logical lore. Many, many, many people in the world think differently. They think that God is all-knowing, which is infinitely illogical. Alright? You just gotta eat that pill. You just gotta swallow it. And even if you don't swallow it, that's fine. That's fine. But you have to understand that means that you can't know Him. You do have to come to that solution that you can't be an apostle for Him. You can't have certainty that anyone was able to reach out to Him. And that's the whole point of God being a higher logic. God's a higher logic that you can't develop in your mind to target. So we have apostles and saints and bishops and cardinals and popes to communicate to the Lord. We have angels and whatnot as well. And look at my channel. I'm going by Archangel Matthew because I have developed these logics. I practice what I'm preaching. I practice it. Now this is where it's going to come to a kicker. You have to start to understand that sin, that burning up your soul, as cheap as you can possibly make it. If you're the best micro matter encryptionist in the universe, as cheap as you can possibly make your sin craft, it's still technically, greater than zero. Okay? No matter what. And you have to think about siphons, energy siphons, particle siphons. You have to worry about all kinds of things. You have to worry about, infinite sub-entanglements, infinite chaotic entanglements. So if you attack somebody that's your enemy, they could just, go into like a greater Lord's chamber, do some scans on them, and now they can just play with you like you're the toy. And it's not this game of like ones and zeros where like who has the most ones and zeros. It's just a matter of free will. Do I have the free will to do it back to you or not? Now that's besides the point. I'm getting off topic. I'm trying to tell you about what happens when you don't do this. When you're not the person sending out these negative energies. When you are somebody that's just sitting there stable. Now, you would think that they'd be able to come in and like take your leg. If they did, the electromagnetic aura, in order to remove the leg, costs more electromagnetic aura and mass and energy to remove a leg than anything. Does that not make sense? Than anything you get. It costs energy and mass to ship, boys and girls. It costs more to ship than the thing that it is. You know, like if you put a penny in an envelope and ship it somewhere, that's the example here, boys and girls. Like to your awareness, you might think that you profit. You put a gold bar into a box and you ship it. Yes, you got a $100,000 plus gold bar, and you think that you profited. But in reality, when it comes down to mass and energy, it's a whole very, very, very hard to explain thing. Like, yeah, you only paid $5 or $15 to ship that gold bar. And sure, you only paid, a postage stamp to ship that penny. But that's not the exact logics here. You're not thinking about the macro operational kinetic energies here. You're not thinking that that gold bar and that penny is a free will being that's living. You're constantly expending energy. You're constantly taking energy in. Alright? And we're constantly moving around in order to create a stasis. We have exhaust. Our energy and mass has exhaust. And it's not just this decoherent heat death. It's the movement of Earth. It's the free will of everybody. We have this exhaust to maintain stasis. Okay? Now, when you're at that level of, you understand everything I've already spoken about. The next point is saving. When you are now ascending from human to what I would call is enlightened, from human to enlightened human, when you're ascending to this point, you are now going to be able to be selected by God. Now, before, I'm going to make an analogy. If you go down and you grab a little particle out of the air, like dust, a little tiny piece of dust, and you wanted to build something in that, you would need to make so many things to build that. And most of us don't have that, all right? We only have what we have, and we can't make anything out of that dust. We can try, and be really hard though, right? Some people have the technology to do it, but most of us don't, right? And let's assume that it's an even smaller piece of dust. That's what we are to a large Lord, a large God. And inside that dust somewhere is us. We don't know where it is, and it's going to take time to figure out where it is. And it might not even be that you're inside the dust, but that's just your body. And the you is outside of it somewhere, and we have to go and find it. Now, all of this comes into the reality that eventually one day, that if you're constantly sinning and shrinking compared to everybody else growing, right? Everybody not sinning and being sinned upon is growing, right? They're now growing and growing and growing. If you're an orange one day instead of a piece of dust, that is an ascended human. An ascended human looks like an orange instead of a piece of dust to God. What God comes up to you and goes, oh, look at this beautiful soul. They're emanating all these different kind of auras and colors to him, or whatever it is, the beauty that you are. You're teaching him your truth with your emanations. He can now learn you easier. Is it not easier to learn what's inside of an orange than a piece of dust? Now, I can learn cells of you. I can learn operations of you. I can learn these things, and not only can I learn them, I can upgrade them. I can attach things to them. This is the fundamental root logic law of the universe. You do not become a pope, a bishop, an archangel, any of these things without this logic. You will become a germ. You will become a demon. You will become a poltergeist. You'll become a ghost. You'll become a witch. You'll become things that aren't real to humans, because humans are closer to God than the things I was just mentioning. The evil things that I was mentioning are micro souls. as ordered as they can possibly be, and as scary as they might possibly be sometimes, considering that there are things like mosquitoes that can kill a human, and there's viruses, things as small as a virus that can kill a human because their order is so great and opposite and reverse of our life support that it can kill us. These logics are still fundamentally law of the universe, which is greater than anything. There are laws and truths that God cannot change. 1 + 1 will always equal 2. It doesn't have anything to do with language. It has to do with logistics. It has to do with the meanings. There are meanings. There are things that God cannot change no matter what. Basically what I'm trying to say, though, is plain and simple. Do not sin upon others, especially long range. If somebody gets into your face and is ruining your day, you are allowed to defend yourself, and it won't cost you that much. And please just be a normal person, because this long-range sin warfare, darkness, crap, that's what kills souls. No matter what, 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 no matter how orderly or rich you are, it costs infinite. You don't know how big the particles are that you're shooting. Even if they're infinitely small, if you truly believe that they're infinitely small, it wouldn't matter because they're infinitely large still. And not only are they infinitely large, they can be infinitely hostily taken over from another lord that one day will sell you out. One day that he's going to go up to your enemy that might kill you and go, I have so much data on that one because I was born this small, and I am so glad to learn that you exist, Lord God of Christianity. And I am here as a member of light today in order to see what we can do to arrange some translations so you can understand exactly who this sinner is. And once that happens, he's going to call up the devil. And get this, why did God not kill the devil? Because the devil isn't as evil as somebody like you. Now, not each and every single one of you, but some of you. Some of you are more evil than the devil. And the baseline here is, if you're the enemy of God, he might befriend you, because God might want an enemy. I want enemies in this game. I want enemies in real life. But I don't want a demon. I don't want a witch. I don't want a poltergeist. I don't want a virus. I don't want a disease. I don't want a mosquito. I don't want the enemy. I want a enemy. A good thing. A fun thing. Somebody to compete with and grow. That's what I truly believe the devil kind of is and was, in a way. More so spiritually growing allies, in a way. Because otherwise he would have went for even more punishment, even more banishment, even harder and deeper, darker things. But for me and my beliefs, I believe that the devil is basically the king of hell. And that's in my beliefs, that has God's ordainship. That's in my true beliefs. You can have your own. But the whole idea is that when you become smaller and smaller and smaller, just because you think that you're bigger because you expanded your spirit, it doesn't mean that your soul didn't lose order. And especially in the long run, don't be the piece of dust in the wind. Grow to be a fruit so God can pick you and give you Christ consciousness, so he can upgrade you, so you can be like the saints and know what God's love is. Om G Bomber out.